Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another update on the Epstein situation, with Wall Street Journal seemingly launching their so-called bombshell story last night that was a supposed letter that doesn't even really make sense because it's like actual dialogue between Trump and Epstein, but a letter from Trump to Epstein with a drawing supposedly by Trump of a naked woman. And it's just weird, and it's just these weird cryptic things that the media does, like this boomer media. They release these things and people just don't even care anymore. And it just looks completely fake. JD Vance comes out and says it's just utter bullshit. And you can see now Trump is saying, and this is, I can't believe that we still have to go through this. And there's other people saying this is a psyop by Trump to release this because of how bad it makes the Wall Street Journal look. And Trump can now control the narrative better. That's how bad this is for the Wall Street Journal, because it's like, well, now Trump can say, yeah, it's a total hoax. Look at these stories they're doing about me. And the thing that the Wall Street Journal gets wrong, it's not about Trump's involvement with Epstein. If you understand the context, and this is like the 90th time we have to go through this because people still think the exact same thing, you realize Donald Trump, back in 2015 at the start of his political career, brought Epstein into the spotlight by saying that Bill Clinton had problems with Epstein and the island. Do you think if Donald Trump had been to the island, he would be bringing it up unprompted? You really think he'd be doing that seriously? You really think of liberals? I mean, even think about this. Supposedly, and this is the whole liberal narrative now, it's a uniparty problem, and there's so many Democrats and so many Republicans involved in this terrible trafficking of children, and Trump is involved, but because of the amount of liberals involved, Biden couldn't release anything because it would implicate them as well. Well, why wouldn't you just release the Trump stuff? I mean, Trump, it was obvious he was going to be the candidate for the Republicans. He could win, and then he won, and you've still got your lame duck period to release something on Trump that supposedly, according to you guys, would end his political career because it's so bad in relation to Epstein, yet nothing comes out. Seriously? We have to believe this crazy dynamic that, oh, because Democrats are concerned about Bill Clinton or someone within their own party, they're going to sacrifice Trump being president for another 4 years instead of ruining his entire political career, when they already tried to do that by elevating 34 misdemeanors into felonies. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous, but it's the same dynamic over and over again. This is what the Wall Street Journal gets wrong. It's not about Trump's relation to Epstein. It's about the administration covering it up, something with Trump to where maybe there's some type of blackmail by Israel against Trump or someone against Trump, to where there's been this change of heart within the past few months. Now Trump doesn't want to talk about it at all, when previously he said, yeah, there's some stuff. I mean, it's people related to Trump certainly are in those files, and you can say, well, he's in the files. Okay, but what's the context of him being in them? Yes, he had a relationship with Epstein, but that's a lot different from going to the island and committing these heinous crimes. So it's like, yes, he's in the files, and I explained this dynamic when Elon insinuated that Trump was in the files. He's in the files, but did he do anything that would be deemed as a terrible, criminal behavior? I mean, the files are massive. What's the context? Not like it's one single page with everyone that went to the island. That's just not what they are. And so you've got Trump here saying what we've all been saying for months. If there was a smoking gun on Epstein, why didn't the Dems, who controlled the files for 4 years and had Garland and Comey in charge, use it? Because they had nothing. Well, and it's not even that. They even had the lame duck period after Trump won. So you supposedly have the thing that would end Trump's political career completely, even after he wins, the lame duck period, to release something. But because it's this uniparty and the Democrats have to protect themselves, I mean, this is why there's no argument from the Democrats, because their only retort to me saying, well, why wouldn't the Democrats just release it? Their only retort is, oh yeah, the Democrats are guilty of the exact same thing, and they didn't release it. So don't you think? So it's like you have no argument. You're saying your party's guilty of the same thing as well. And so I'm not saying this is, I'm not trying to get a one-up on anyone. I'm saying this is why none of this logic makes any sense against Trump. Why would Trump bring the Epstein and the island into the spotlight in 2015, 2016 when nobody was talking about it? If he went to the island, that's a daring thing to do. Doesn't make any sense. And it's like the Wall Street Journal comes out, and we know it's all this like passive aggressive. We're going to release this letter that may or may not be from Trump. And oh, he's referencing a girl naked, and we know what that means. And it's the same thing with Elon Musk. Oh, he's in the files. It's this, oh, what am I? I'm alleging something. I'm not going to say it, but I'm alleging something. So why don't you just say it? So see, this stuff, it's just all this annoying passive aggressive stuff. So why don't you just say he went to the island and he committed terrible crimes with underage women, if that's what you're insinuating, right? But no one ever says that because they know it doesn't make any sense based off of Trump's political career. Even Trump kicking Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Yes, Epstein had relationships with many big players, many billionaires. That was like his job. And so don't you think we would know if there was, anything terrible? To me, it would just come out, but somebody would say something. And then, I mean, there's also another good point talking about the Wall Street Journal, this crazy bombshell letter in 2003. It hasn't been leaked in the past 22 years. That's 3 election cycles. That's 3 October surprises against Trump. This letter has never come up. And now randomly it comes up because Wall Street Journal wants to get their name in the news because the whole Trump Epstein thing is in the spotlight. But it's not about Trump going to the island. It's about the administration covering up other people going to the island as a uniparty problem. They're not, this is not what people are, you have to understand. And if liberals are saying this, again, you're insinuating that Democrats covered this up for 4 years. I would guess because they've had a ton of people also go to the island. So how are you guys any better? If anything, you're worse. At least Republicans are demanding accountability. That's the only reason this is coming up, because Republicans are demanding accountability. The Republicans could have done the exact same thing as Democrats over the past 4 years and said, oh, we're just going to look the other way. The Epstein stuff, the Democrats were the ones disavowing the Epstein stuff as conspiracy theories because all anyone talked about was Bill Clinton. And the thought that, oh, he went to the island 26 times or whatever it was, what was alleged. And so it just like the stuff, what are we even talking about? The point is this, and so this is just my thought on the whole situation. There were people on the list. There were people in the files. There were people that were going to be implicated that Trump knew. And so that's why he was very coy about releasing the list. But he said he would do it, right? He said he would do it, and now he's done this 180 in the past 2 months or 3 months. So what changed? What really changed? And this all relates to Pam Bondi saying she had stuff on her desk, insinuating it's going to be released, and then suddenly it doesn't exist. And people are like, well, Pam Bondi lied. Well, if she lied, then she needs to be removed from the acting AG role. I don't think she lied. I think that's ridiculous. She really lied about having stuff. Really? I think somebody told her behind the scenes, hey, because of X, Y, and Z, you are not to release this now. Bottom line, there's things that happen behind the scenes, whether it's some type of blackmail against Trump or somebody he knew that says this is not going to be released anymore. I don't think Pam Bondi is going around lying to people saying she has stuff and it's going to be released, and then a month later saying, oh, I don't have anything, and she looks that dumb. Really? That's what it is? That's what you think it is? That's not what I think it is. There's something that happened behind the scenes here, and somebody knew. Somebody said, "Oh, that's what you're releasing. That's not going to happen." And the reason it's not going to happen is because we have on you X, Y, and Z, and if you release this, we're gonna, it's the blackmail. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but to me, it makes no sense. Why would Pam Bondi? Why would they have a phase 1 if there's not going to be a phase 2? If the administration wanted to put this under everything from the start, all they had to do was come in and say, we're looking into it, we'll get back to you. Or they could have said the Democrats destroyed stuff. And I know that's what Trump said, but I'm talking about right when they came in, when they still had the basis trust. All they had to say was, the Democrats destroyed everything. There's nothing we can do. They covered them. They covered their tracks. And then the Republicans would be like, yep, because Bill Clinton and everyone like that. So you can see that's really what this is. And there's no logical reason why they would handle the situation. Why would they release a phase 1 if they're trying to skirt any of the Epstein stuff from coming out? It makes no sense. It really doesn't. And I know Trump was coy, but he still said that they would be released. And this is a massive change from him saying, yeah, I think we'll release it, to it doesn't exist. Nobody cares about it. Stop talking about it. There's something that changed. There's something that changed behind the scenes. That would be my guess in terms of what they're allowed to release and what they're not allowed to release. And look, we can speculate on it all we want. But to me, that's clearly what happened. And so we've got one of the reporters from the Wall Street Journal privating her posts on X. And I would imagine she's like, well, it's harassment. So, but it's like, really? You're going to private your stuff after releasing something like that? I mean, come on. And now we've got Pam Bondi saying we're ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. They're trying to give people what they want. And it's damage control. It is. But this Wall Street Journal, I think, is so good for Trump just in terms of him calling everything a hoax. Does this not work out perfectly? Because now there's some justification because of how dumb this story is, this alleged story with Epstein and Trump. And what does it even prove anyways? It's like, this is not the thing, but why would this not come out earlier? If you've got, this is a crazy thing. How is Trump ran for president 3 times and had all of this vetting done and none of it comes out? It just seems so fake. And to me, it was never about, oh, Trump's relationship with Epstein and Trump went to the island. It was always about other people within the government, and now their administration is covering it up, and it looks like a uniparty thing when Trump was supposed to be this outsider who exposed all of it, and now he's not, so he's abandoning his base. And I can understand people being mad at that for sure. But now there's this thing where it's, oh, it's Epstein and Trump, really? And liberals sat on it this whole time? That's unbelievable. I find that extreme. I find it impossible. I find it impossible to believe that that's the actual story. So this is where we're at with the Epstein stuff. They're going to unseal stuff. You would think the Wall Street Journal, with the way it galvanizes Republicans against the fake news, which is kind of Trump's moniker, you'd think this would be something that could be good for Trump, honestly, depending on what happens. And he says he's going to sue the Wall Street Journal, and we'll see what comes of that. But that, it takes a while, and we're not going to find out tomorrow if his lawsuit is successful. So it's like, well, you're going to sue them, all right. It could be posturing to try and make yourself look innocent. I mean, but I'm not saying he's, that's his letter, but it's one of those things to where it doesn't even seem like this is what people are mad at Trump for. The idea that, oh, Trump went to the island and participated in these actions after really, then we have a real messed up government if that's the case, and he can run for president 3 times and nothing's wrong, and nobody talks about anything. And then the Democrats are like, yes, Trump is guilty, but because all of our politicians are guilty as well, that's the only reason we didn't bring. Oh, really? You think that's a good retort? So you're the same. So it's the same. So it's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think there's people that Trump knows that probably are in the files, and it'd look very bad for them if they came out, and so it's a problem. And then I think probably something else happened behind the scenes within the last 2 or 3 months to where Pam Bondi had something, and then she can't release it. They're just like, nope, you can't release it. And that's what happens sometimes behind the scenes, and it's the unfortunate part. But, Trump has lived a long life, and there's stuff that people probably still have on him to this day. And listen, it is what it is. I don't know exactly what to say, but it seems like something behind the scenes has happened that's really caused a change in Trump. And I know people say, well, he was already coy about releasing it. Yes, but he was going to do it. And it's a massive shift to go from, yeah, I think we'll probably release it, to gaslighting all the supporters and saying, you're not a real supporter of mine if you care about the Epstein stuff. That's a massive shift. It's a massive shift. And that's what I'm trying to illustrate here, right? Because there's a lot going on that's hard to take in. But the overall, and even Trump now is saying the obvious stuff on what we were saying. If there was all this terrible stuff, why wasn't it released? It makes no sense. If there's all this horrible stuff, release it during the lame duck period when I'm about to go in. You guys tried to ruin my political career. You elevated 34 misdemeanors into felonies. You're sitting on this and you're not going to release it because you're concerned about people within your own party getting nabbed for. Come on. It's not realistic. Doesn't make sense. So we'll see what comes of this. Apparently they're going to unseal some transcripts. They're trying to placate to the base, and we'll have to see if it ends up working. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.